Bonjour, bon après-midi. Toutes mes excuses pour mon absence physique aujourd'hui, ce vendredi 14 juin 2024, due à des problèmes de santé, et tous mes remerciements aux organisateurs de ces célébrations autour de Laurent Clerc. Je salue tout particulièrement Laurent Holt, descendant de la famille de Laurent Clerc. Il m'a fait l'honneur de rédiger l'avant-propos du premier ouvrage que je vais vous présenter. Je suis Mireille Golaszewski, M-I-R-E-I-L-L-E, G-O-L-A-S-Z-E-W-S-K-I. Je suis angliciste, inspecteur général honoraire de l'éducation nationale et secrétaire général du consortium L'accès LSF pour tous. Le consortium est une plateforme de cours de LSF et de culture sourde et aussi un centre de recherche. Je remercie le professeur du lycée Joséphine Baker à Toulouse, M. Pascal Cabaret-Rueff et Cécile Mercier, qui ont en partie réalisé cette vidéo. Cécile est aussi l'interprète en langue des signes. Nous avons utilisé l'ALSF, l'ASL, le français et l'anglais autant que faire se peut. Les documents en papier sont à votre disposition sur un présentoir, sur une table des stands. Les deux ouvrages autour de Laurent Clerc et Thomas Gallaudet dont je vais vous parler ont été réalisés en 5 ans à compter de l'année Covid 2019. Il est d'usage en France de n'utiliser qu'un prénom et donc ici je dirais Thomas Gallaudet. C'est un intense travail de coopération franco-américaine sponsorisé pour le premier ouvrage coécrit avec Christopher Course, en partie par l'ambassade des États-Unis à Paris, dans le cadre d'un appel à projet pour l'année 2020-2021 sur les thèmes suivants: valeurs et intérêts communs, activités qui font connaître la longue histoire des relations franco-américaines et tissent des liens entre les peuples américains et français. Le projet du consortium a été adopté par l'ambassade des États-Unis. Les deux ouvrages réalisés successivement avec Christopher Course et plus tard Ellen Mansfield pour l'histoire graphique racontent la rencontre exceptionnelle entre Laurent Clerc et Thomas Gallaudet et l'héritage qu'ils ont légué dans le monde de l'éducation des sourds. J'ai très vite compris, notamment par mes nombreux contacts aux États-Unis, par l'intermédiaire aussi d'Alice Hagemeyer, qui est à la tête d'un réseau de bibliothèques pour sourds dans chaque État américain, par tous ceux qui m'ont apporté leur contribution, que je devais rendre hommage à ces deux personnalités exceptionnelles et surtout à Laurent Clerc, qui a vécu longtemps aux États-Unis et qui, de ce fait, m'a semblé peut-être plus connu des sourds américains que des sourds français. Vous aurez à la fin de notre projection, dans le temps imparti à ma conférence, environ 1 heure, le temps de poser des questions à Christopher Course, présent ce vendredi, qui a exploré en amont avec moi un très grand nombre de publications existantes sur Laurent Clerc et Thomas Gallaudet. Commençons par le premier livre de recherche universitaire. Son titre, un partenariat franco-américain pour l'éducation des sourds, Laurent Clerc et Thomas Gallaudet. Cet ouvrage a été présenté par le RIT, le Rochester Institute of Technology, pour un webinaire concernant une semaine Laurent Clerc et Thomas Gallaudet, le 9 décembre 2021. Les auteurs, Mireille Golaszewski et Christopher Course. John Naturale est la bibliothécaire du RIT. Elle a facilité mes recherches avec compétence et dévouement et elle m'a autorisé à utiliser une section de ce webinaire. Christopher Course est co-auteur de cet ouvrage avec moi. Il est professeur de mathématiques appliquées au RIT. Sa connaissance de Laurent Clerc et de Thomas Gallaudet est encyclopédique. Il répondra à vos questions à la suite de la vidéo. La biographie détaillée des deux auteurs se trouve aux pages 399-401 de la version française du livre. L'ouvrage dont il va être question dans la vidéo est disponible sur Amazon en version française. Il est aussi en vente ici sur le présentoir. Pour la version anglaise, adressez-vous à Christopher. Regardons cette vidéo du RIT où Christopher et moi-même sommes interviewés par John Naturale. Nous expliquons comment nous avons travaillé ensemble et à distance.
Hello, my name is Joan. I'm the NTID librarian at RIT. I am just so excited to discuss today's book featuring Claire and Gallaudet. I am a proud graduate of Gallaudet University, a sister institute of the National Technical Institute for the Deaf. Now, this slide shows information that I've developed through my work at the library. There's a library website called Info Guides. This is helpful for people to find information about deaf topics. You can see my contact information here, and there's also a feature where you can chat. Next slide. Here is an example of an info guide. This is one that I developed to help people who are researching Claire and Gallaudet. I'd like to draw your attention to the column on the left, which has different topics that you can explore. Next slide. This webinar will be available as a video recording. So what you are seeing today is the page from the RAD SCC, which is the RIT ASL Deaf Studies Community Center. The coordinator for that program is Jean Beam. She hosts our lecture series, and all of you can view these recorded lectures for free at any time. Our webinars will be posted on this website, and you'll see the recording from today here listed as well. Next slide. This week is Claire Gallaudet Week, and this was founded by a deaf public librarian by the name of Alice Hagermeyer. She's from Washington, D.C. She started this in 1974 to honor and recognize Claire and Gallaudet's birth anniversaries, two men who were leaders in the field of deaf education. All right, now let us begin our book discussion. I'd like to take a moment to introduce Chris and Mireille. Hello to both of you. I'd like to begin with a question to Mireille. Could you tell me what prompted you to contact me?
Well, as a matter of fact, given the scope of our work and the amount of documents I had already collected, I applied to the RIT library for a particular archive document, and I was automatically directed to Joan and to Joan's email address. Then Joan directed me to Christopher Course. And here we are. So a French hearing woman and an American deaf man met by chance And this is maybe a replica of the Laurent, Clerc and Thomas Gallaudet story, starting again. It's really good.
Yes, that's true. So again, for Mireille, could you explain the program that you work for? Do you work with deaf and hearing individuals?
Okay, I mean, to cut a long story short, I have always been interested in languages and communication. And what is important in life for me is not the isolated individual, but what's going on between two individuals. My discovery of English at an early age grew into a passion. I taught English and American literature for many, many years. When I was appointed General Inspector for Education in 1998, I was still dealing with languages. In 2005 in France, a law was passed concerning equality for all students in education. And I was then interested by the minister to see whether all deaf pupils all over the country were properly educated. So I started visiting all schools with deaf students everywhere and came back, of course, to the idea that deaf teachers should be there. So I created the CAPES, which is a certificate enabling deaf people and all candidates to become fully recognized teachers in France. Then, of course, I've been promoting the teaching and learning of sign language in all schools. And I try to develop an interest for deaf culture, which is so rich. The consortium, by the way, developed an application in 4 languages: French, LSF, English, ASL. And from this date on, I've been working in deaf cultures, that is French culture, but also American culture. And these projects have been supported kindly by the US Embassy in France.
Wow, that's outstanding.
Now, we have to know that the French Embassy in Paris and the Washington Embassy as well are sharing information and projects in the field of education. So the US Embassy informed me in April that they had a call for a 1-year project within the frame of Franco-American friendship around commemorative events. I jumped into this opportunity to apply for a project around the Laurent, Clerc and Thomas Gallaudet story. And the consortium project was accepted by the embassy. So I'm very grateful, of course, to the embassy and to their support, enabling me to be with all of you today. Thank you so much.
That's very exciting. Now, Chris, how did you get involved with this project?
I became involved in this project. Mireille was, going along, and we were connected through Joan. She introduced us through my university here at RIT. I had previously taught instruction in America related to the topic and had published articles and information on Laurent, Clerc, as well as Thomas H. Gallaudet. So we developed a relationship, Mireille and I, and a collaboration. And we had been working together. She had a year-long project and I joined her as she had already started it. We worked as well as collaborated on a variety of different resources that we were able to obtain. Mireille and I were able to get French resources as well as American resources to put them together. And it's been a fantastic journey over the last several months. The time was much shorter than we would have liked, but I believe it was successful and a very vital piece of work and resource for people in the future.
Why was it important to both of you to write this book about Claire and Gallaudet?
Developing this, we had a vision. Very often people are taught and know quite a bit. And from talking with people and from what I've seen, Claire and Gallaudet are both known. Their name is well known. However, Gallaudet, due to the university in DC, his name seems to be more well known. There is no Claire University as of yet. Maybe there will be someday, hopefully. So Gallaudet's name is really out there. There has been quite a bit published regarding him and his family, whereas there's very little known and or published about Laurent Clerc. So people are aware that he existed, that he was French, that he was deaf, and that he did come here and help to establish the first deaf school, that he signed LSF, that he founded ASD in Connecticut, and they know that he worked with Gallaudet, but they don't know much more than that and what happened during that journey that led up to those events, who his colleagues and friends and peers were, the contemporaries of that time, and how they were viewed at that time. So this book really aims to put all those pieces together and to gain those different perspectives and to have them all compiled in one place. The teachers then who have been trained to teach this bit of history, instead of teaching the same old story of Gallaudet and Claire met and then set up the first school and not knowing much more than that, they now have a much richer, deeper resource that they're able to use in their teaching of deaf histories for deaf studies, as well as linguistics.
Mireille, would you like to comment?
Having an interest in deaf culture and history, I did realize that Laurent Clerc, a Frenchman, was barely known in France, whereas he was much appreciated in the US for his cooperation, of course, with Thomas Gallaudet. Now, the story of their first meeting becoming a lifelong friendship really fascinated me. And so, of course, I decided to do something about it. In addition to this, this fitted in so well with my knowledge of Franco-American relationships, as I have experienced them when I visited your country for many, many times with my husband. As a former teacher and linguist, I was particularly attracted by how Laurent Clerc and Thomas Gallaudet learned each other's language on a boat in 52 days. Wow. And of course, as an educator immersed in deaf culture and promoting sign languages as much as I can, I was attracted by what they achieved together in deaf education.
Chris?
If I could add, this book was also really important because it was the first of its kind that has the language that is bilingually produced, that has both French and English published together side by side. And eventually we we didn't want them to be translated at a later date. We wanted them to be together so that they could be compared, but also for people who are skilled in both languages to take advantage of both.
It is so, so important for our deaf children and deaf students to know about our own deaf heritage. So I think this is a wonderful start. Now to my next question. What was new or surprising that you learned about Claire and Gallaudet while both of you were working on the book?
What was important for me is that we came to know them in depth beyond what I already knew about them. In France, l'Abbé de l'Épée is much more popular than Laurent Clerc. This, of course, might be due to the fact that Laurent Clerc traveled to the States, married there, settled there, and remained there till the end of his life. So he vanished from France, so to speak, right? But what I discovered really was how much appreciated Laurent Clerc is in your country. And thank you for him.
This is Chris. I learned about both Claire and Gallaudet over the years at different ages and different points of view regarding them. And it has changed. My point of view about them has changed the older I've gotten, the more I've learned, the more research that I've done. I think that this work really gave me the opportunity to delve deeper and into the two of them and the different work that they've done, the different people who they've impacted, who have written about them. And I really have taken in quite a bit of the information. I believe it's really helped me appreciate more. And the information, some of it has been positive and some of it has been negative. But that is a part of seeing that point of view that's been passed down in that legacy.
How was it different for you to write a book collaboratively and from different locations, one in France, one in America? Were there any aspects of that that was fun or uplifting or perhaps frustrating? Tell us more about writing the book.
What was particularly helpful and comfortable was how well we got on together straight away, Christopher and I. Our chance meeting turned immediately into a cooperative relationship full of respect, confidence, and enthusiasm. Our English written fluency was an asset, and hundreds of mails went to and fro during months. So this is how it worked. No problem.
Mireille and I met. We have not met in person, and it's all been entirely virtual via Zoom. We would have email conversations, as she mentioned, but nothing live or in person. So to, finally see her is fabulous. Most of our correspondence was through email. I'm grateful that she knew English and was proficient. I am not very fluent at all in French. So we would use Google Translate for some of the French, and I would try to figure some things out by the context, but there were some miscommunications with written language, which of course is only natural. we were able to connect, as she mentioned. Our interests really aligned, and we have worked collaboratively and really well together to see the different points of view, both the French and American points of view, and to be able to put our ideas together. We really had the same goal in mind and wanted to really work to booster teachers' education. And so that really drove our work to delve deeper together and work well together. I think it was also a benefit to have the deaf perspective, to really know the history of the past all the way to the present. And so it went very well.
How did you research the book? What materials did you use in the writing process?
I was very grateful to RIT. We have a fabulous librarian, Joan, and quite a wealth of resources. So we had access to archived journals, primary resources, different written letters and so forth that we were able to have access to. And I was able to share those with Mireille so we could both read them and then discuss them. So RIT helped immensely. So I really want to make sure Joan recognizes our appreciation for her help.
I was very happy to help.
I do agree with everything Christopher said. I just want to add something. Joan was really very helpful, never tired of answering my emails, sending documents, providing information. Thank you so much. I also want to thank Mr. Jeff Bravin, the director of the ASD, whom I contacted and who immediately put me into contact with Jean Lindemann, librarian at the Coxwell Museum and Library in ASD. She too was really a decisive provider of archived documents, as were many university professors in France and in the US whom I contacted. They all sent information and free access to their publications. Thank you so much.
Now, who did you find the most fascinating? Which character did you research and find most fascinating, and why?
I mean, obviously, I am fascinated by both Laurent and Claire as well as Thomas Gallaudet. So Claire, of course, we're both deaf and we're both teachers and educators and worked at schools for the deaf. So I really resonated with him and found him interesting. Albert Hallenborg published an article related to Laurent Claire during his time coming after Claire came to America and settled with his family and children, some religious aspects, and really looked into that. I found that really fascinating. This project really made me even more interested in the contemporaries of Claire's time and the people who wrote about him, his students, people who were around him, as well as friends and peers, and those who he led in America once he arrived, to see their writing and the things that they said about Claire, as well as Gallaudet, was those stories that they shared were and examples were fascinating. One example is John Hotchkiss. He was one of the first deaf teachers they had at Gallaudet. He was a teacher of literature, and he tells a story of when he was younger and Claire, he remembers him as a boy. He was living nearby to the school and would walk all around the area, and Hotchkiss tells the story of remembering running into him and explaining what he looked like and that interaction and those memories. So he would tell deaf students and other deaf people that people are interesting and fascinating because of the influence and legacy that they leave. And for generations, the impact they had has been phenomenal. And so I really enjoyed seeing other people's stories.
For me, Laurent Clerc and Thomas Gallaudet are always together in my mind. And they achieved what they did in deaf education precisely, according to me, because they were so complementary. And if there is a lesson from all this, it is that when we work together, we work better. I will answer on 2 points. The first one about films and the second one about Laurent Clerc family. Now, films, unfortunately, I don't know any films about Laurent and Thomas Gallaudet, except from a few clips on YouTube that might be some excerpts from plays as well, but I don't know. But in our units and PowerPoint sections, we have suggested different activities for students, among them role playing. I will just give you an example. Laurent Clerc meets Alice, play the scene. Or Laurent Clerc and Gallaudet meets for the first time, maybe on the boat, play the scene. My wish is that students all over the world in different schools could appropriate the story of these two wonderful characters and create by themselves short plays, some scenes, or some poetry, working together, hearing and deaf students together. And if they were doing so, of course, the heritage will continue for more generations. Secondly, I would like to say something about Laurent Clerc family. Luckily enough, I could contact Laurent Holt. Laurent Holt is Laurent Clerc's descendant, 6th generation removed. Now, can you imagine how moved and honored I was the first time I could phone and exchange with Laurent Holt? Now, of course, you want to know, I'm sure, what the conversation was about. Very simple. But the answer is, what in a name? Interestingly enough. And you will find echoes of this in the book. All along those months, spring, summer, and so on, Laurent Holt kept very discreet presence, and his calls to me were always very supportive and always instructive. So thank you very much to Laurent as well.
Ce gros ouvrage de 401 pages est en 5 chapitres. Il répertorie, chapitre 1, les représentations de Laurent Clerc et Thomas Gallaudet, monuments, sculptures, œuvres littéraires, films, vidéos, etc. Chapitre 2, la vie et l'œuvre de Laurent Clerc et de Thomas Gallaudet. 3, leur rencontre exceptionnelle, au pluriel. 4, les langues des signes, le multilinguisme, l'intercommunication entre les sourds et les entendants. Et enfin 5, l'héritage de Laurent Clerc et de Thomas Gallaudet. La liste des sources et la bibliographie, page 393, vous donne l'ampleur de nos recherches. Le second ouvrage, Histoire graphique, a pour titre Laurent Clerc et Thomas Gallaudet, deux pionniers dans le monde de l'éducation des sourds. C'est une histoire graphique. Les auteurs, Mireille Golaszewski et Ellen Mansfield. Je l'ai réalisé avec Ellen Mansfield à partir du premier ouvrage pour le rendre accessible à tous. De nombreuses peintures sont des peintures originales d'Ellen. Les autres documents sont des documents d'archives ou des photos. Il est rédigé en anglais et en français, donc il est bilingue. On le trouve sur amazon.com et amazon.fr, et aussi sur le présentoir. L'histoire graphique se concentre sur les éléments biographiques de Laurent Clerc, de son départ de Balme-les-Grottes vers les États-Unis, de sa vie simple et humble, à la gloire partagée avec Thomas Gallaudet. C'est une aventure extraordinaire, une histoire qui finit très bien, comme nous les aimons tous, petits et grands. Cet ouvrage qui part de données du précédent, rendu simple, bref et accessible, est pour tout public. Qui est Ellen Mansfield? Feuilletons ensemble cette histoire graphique. D'abord la page de couverture. Entourée de faïence bleue, une spécialité artistique d'Ellen. Au milieu, le tournesol tourné vers le haut, signe d'optimisme. Dans une fenêtre centrale à sa croisée, les sigles LSF et ASL, symboliquement entrecroisés. Et de part et d'autre, Laurent Clerc et Thomas Gallaudet, les deux pionniers dans le nouveau monde de l'éducation des sourds. Les 4 chapitres couvrent la période donc du départ de Balme-les-Grottes à la gloire aux États-Unis. Il y a 4 chapitres, le premier, les premières années, le second, on s'installe dans le nouveau monde, le troisième, Laurent Clerc et Thomas Gallaudet, éducateurs pionniers, et le quatrième, l'héritage des deux pionniers et la langue des signes se portent bien. Regardons, si vous voulez bien, quelques pages. Pages 1 et 2, par exemple. Voilà, donc vous reconnaissez bien sûr Balme-les-Grottes. Le petit Laurent Clerc qui tombe dans la cheminée. Et le signe, donc des signes de Laurent Clerc, que vous connaissez tous bien sûr. Je peux vous montrer également, page 40, le banquet, puisque vous allez avoir un banquet ensemble. Alors vous avez ici le banquet avec une gravure d'époque, et vous avez le banquet version peinture Ellen Mansfield. Et à la fin, tout à la fin, je vous montre une ou deux images de la gloire de Laurent Clerc et Thomas Gallaudet aux États-Unis. La première, et voici la dernière. Laurent Clerc a été peint par de nombreux artistes d'Evia aux États-Unis. Regardons ensemble ce tableau d'Ellen Mansfield qui vous est projeté. Il s'appelle La boussole de Laurent Clerc pour l'éducation des sourds. La description en est faite par Ellen Mansfield elle-même. Le fond est en céramique et il est bleu pâle avec des ovales et avec une étoile à l'intérieur. Devant se trouve une main avec les doigts pointés vers le haut. Les doigts sont légèrement courbés, mais le pouce est droit. Le dos de la main et les doigts sont bleus, tandis que le pouce est jaune. Entre les doigts et le pouce se trouve une étoile avec des rayons orange, violet et bleu. De chaque côté de la main se trouvent de longues plumes avec des rayures bleues, noires et grises. Et sous la plume droite se trouve une bouteille d'encre, un encrier. Des plumes bleues unies entourent le poignet. Ceci évoque bien l'implication de Laurent Clerc dans l'éducation. Les relations et la coopération franco-américaine se poursuivent sur les traces de Laurent Clerc et Thomas Gallaudet, avec deux artistes qui n'ont pas pu venir aujourd'hui, Ellen Mansfield et Nancy Rourke. Ellen Mansfield. Ellen Mansfield, sous ma recommandation, a participé avec Tracy Salloway, professeur à Gallaudet University, à un atelier à l'École des Beaux-Arts de Marseille intitulé « Récits sur l'art tactile, perspectives d'artistes basées sur l'éducation, les expériences et l'éducation d'une personne ». Un compte rendu se trouve sur le site de l'école. Hélène s'est rendue à Balme-les-Grottes les 9 et 10 mars 2023. Elle envoie ses amitiés à Marc, Monique et Yann. Deuxièmement, Nancy Rourke. Nancy Rourke est une grande artiste américaine sourde d'Evia. Elle est toujours à mes côtés pour m'éclairer. Elle est devenue une amie. Elle s'est aussi beaucoup intéressée à Laurent Clerc, dont elle a fait plusieurs portraits. Elle fait partie de cette famille franco-américaine qui m'a adoptée il y a plusieurs années, à partir de 1995. Nancy n'a pas pu venir aujourd'hui car elle est sur un projet de peinture murale pour Gallaudet University qui va l'absorber de nombreuses journées. Nous espérions nous retrouver aujourd'hui. Elle est venue à Balme-les-Grottes en 2019. Mais elle est présente grâce à ce mini-clip vidéo. Merci pour votre attention. Christopher pourra répondre à vos questions. La vidéo que vous venez de voir sera disponible en juin sur le site du consortium. Je vous souhaite de très belles journées ensemble à Balme-les-Grottes et un merveilleux banquet et bien plus. Que le souvenir de Laurent Clerc vive longtemps. Au revoir.